So I think kind of two words. I think they're both overused in the public speaking domain, but they hold true to such, I wouldn't say struggling, but I would say people who've been with thick skin have been beaten down or learned something new. I think grit and resilience are two things that they should always follow through. Uh, but these are just theoretical outlays. The practical example is that if you're running a business and that business somehow, over the years of, its prosperity, have have changed use cases over 3 years, 4 years, and now you've realized that that model has been beaten down. I think the only thing that can make them come back to solving another problem is their grit and the resilience to solve a problem. Practically speaking, on the ground, if you talk about it, it's like a lot of startups that I've known who have completely changed their business models from what they were to what they are now in a period of 4 years, in a period of 5 years, in a period of 3 years. I've seen startups changing their pivot in like 7 months, 8 months. So I think the advice would be is to never ever lose that grit in you to solve that problem, number one. Number two is to be resilient enough to kind of taking up the new challenge. Because if you do have a mindset of solving problems, you'll be able to kind of get to something faster. Secondly, I think staying humble is another thing that I really, really advocate. And why I do that is because if you too much of grit and too much of resilience can make you a little nosy also. Like, मैं कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ, like I can do this, I've done this. Not like that. Like you need to stay humble and in that capacity of learning. And with startups that I've seen in my life, whose founders were more prone to learning, have done a better job than the ones who raised one or two rounds and then kind of gone beyond their position. And those are the one, are kind of like, are struggling to kind of come back. They kind of, they leave the country or they leave the business or they kind of go back in a job. But the ones who are resilient have stayed along. And, a lot of our, those kind of founders who've been around for like 20 years, and there's a lot of people like that, like 15 years, 20 years. The only thing that made them stay and keep on innovating is their resilience and grit and that belief and humility to kind of, come back to it again. Otherwise, if you've done something in your life, you still, you still don't know the new game. So like we were discussing right now, is that the transition or a migration from someone in marketing to kind of get into digital marketing is a leap of faith. But you need to do it with humbleness. That I know this, but I don't know this. And when you approach this, you approach it with the same vigor as you were in your earlier as a brand manager, right? Or your marketing executive, whatever. So I think that's how they should approach it. And one more thing is that keep on researching. So I think a lot of part of this goes into learning. I've heard this so many times, like, people presenting in pitches and saying, there is no company like this in the world. And I just tell them to just look again because they might be. So I think these great resilience and staying humble is something that they should be able to kind of do an approach with.